All right, here are the notes for exponential functions. This is going to be Math 1, Unit 5, Lesson 5. Okay? All right, so jumping right into it, example 1. In the year 2007, a company made $6.6 million in profit. For each consecutive year after that, their profit increased by 13%. How much would the company's profit be in the year 2010 to the nearest tenth of $1 million? Okay, so the first thing is we think back to what formula we were using, right? Y equals, we get our principal or our starting amount, and then we did 1 plus or minus our interest rate, right? And typically we wrote our interest rate as a decimal, right? So instead of saying 5%, we would write this as 0.05, right? Just move the decimal place over 2 places. Okay, that was our formula. So if you're increasing, you do plus. If you're decreasing, you just do minus, right? It's basically the same formula. That's from lesson 4. So when we're saying here, right, so we're increasing this. Okay, so this is going to be a plus problem. I know what 13% is, so I can rewrite my 13% as 0.13. And we know what our principal is, right? So if I want to use my formula, we can go ahead and do 6.6 times 1 plus 0.13. We're going to make a table over here that's going to help us out. So I'm going to start showing you a different way to think about these types of problems, right? Because we're starting in the year 2007, but we're going to finish in the year 2010. So we're going to have to do this multiple times. So I'm going to make a table to help us see each step, right? So typically, we would use X and Y. But to help you keep things organized in your head, we're going to use our year, what that translates into X, and then what our Y would be after that. Okay, so in this case, be the amount of money we started with. Okay, so in the year 2007, on our table, that's our starting point. So we use the number 0 for this. Okay, we have 6.6 million. Okay, so again, remember this is repeated, right? So I'm going to simplify this problem before I go and do the multiplication. I have 6.6. I'm going to keep this number in mind, right? I'm just going to go ahead and add these together, and I can write this as times 1.13. And that number is going to be what I'm going to use going forward, okay? So if I do, let's pull up a calculator. Make this a little bit bigger. All right, so we have 6.6 times, let's do this in parentheses, times 1.13, right? So that would be 7 so in the year 2008, after increasing by 13%, we're now, our X is 1, right? We spent 1 year. We are at $7.458 million, okay? All we did is we went from here to here, we multiplied by 1.13, right? We increased it by the 100%, our whole amount, and we increased it by 13%. Okay, to get to the year 2009, we're now 2 years into the future. We're going to multiply the number we just had by increasing it by 13%. So I'm just going to take 7.458 and multiply that by 1.13. Okay, so we get 8,000,000. $8.4275 million, right? Because again, we're just taking this number here and we're increasing it by multiplying it by 1.13, right? Last one, right? Because our last number, we're trying to get to the year 2010. That would be 3 years after we started. So I'm going to take 8.4275 and multiply that by 1.13, and we get 9.5231,202. Okay, so I didn't round on purpose. We're going to round at the very end, because if you make an error in your rounding, you're going to compound the error going forward. Your answer is going to be wrong. Okay, so make sure you round at the very end. So if I'm trying to do this, I'm going to round at this point. I'm going to the nearest tenth. So this is the number I'm looking for. This number tells me if I round that 5 up or not, right? It's less than 5. So my answer is going to be $9.5 million. So in the year 2010, they have $9.5 million. Okay, let's try example 2. Same idea. So we're going to start by reading it. Okay. In the year 2010, a person bought a new car worth $23,500. For each consecutive year after that, the value of the car depreciated by 9%. How much would the car be worth in the year 2013 to the nearest $100? Okay, first things first, right? When we see the word depreciation, we're talking about the value of a car. Typically, the moment you drive it off a lot, you're going to lose money. The car's going to be worth less. Okay, so whenever we think this, we think goes down. Okay, so if I'm trying to find the number we're multiplying by every single time, I'm going to do 1 minus my rate. So if we have 9%, we're just going to convert that to 0.09. I'm going to plug that in, 0.09, and we get 0.81. Oh, sorry, 91, my bad. Right? That's what we're going to multiply at each step. Okay, so again, we're starting in the year 2010. We're going to do, that is our year 0. And the amount of money that we have is $23,500. We need to go all the way to 2013. So that's going to be 2011, 2012, 2013, right? So we're going to go 3 years into the future. Okay, so I'm just going to use my calculator one more time. We're going to multiply by 0.91. So after 1 year, my car depreciated. It's now worth $21,385. Okay, it's after 1 year, right? All we did was multiply it at this number here by 0.91. We did the same thing, right? We're just going to multiply by 0.91. So I'm going to take this number here. I'm going to go ahead and take, we already know that 21,385 is the number. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply by 0.91. Right, so now the value is 19,460. Again, do not round until the very end of the problem. 0.35. Okay. Last step. You need to multiply that 19,000 by 0.91. You're going to get 17,708.9185. Okay, almost done. We have our answer. We just need to round to the right place, right? In our instructions, we're told to round to the nearest $100. Get the laser really quick. So remember, this is the 8 is my ones place. The 0 is my tens place. The second 7 is the hundreds place. So that's going to be the number we're rounding to. So this is what this is where I'm rounding to. This 0 is going to tell me if I round up or leave it alone. We're going to leave it alone. So the value of my vehicle when I purchase after 3 years of depreciation is going to be $17,700, because you're rounding the nearest $100. 100, not hundredth, but 100. If it said 100th, we'd go 3 decimal places, right? That would be tenths. That would be right here. That'd be 1, right? And we'd round that up. Okay, so that's example 2. Now, there was a reason why I made you make the table and go over here, right? Notice how we're multiplying by the same thing every single time. We can use powers to help us out from going forward. So there's actually a new formula. We're going to add something to the formula we've been using. You have y equals a b to the x, or to make it a little more familiar, we're taking the same formula that we've been using up until this point. We're just going to raise it to the t, right? So if I want to find the second power, I could have gone straight, moving forward 3 years. I could have just done, so let's go back to my original problem. I could have also done, I could have done 6.6 times 1.13 and raised it to the third power because I want to go forward 3 years. We've gotten the same number. Same thing for this one down here, right? I could have done 23,500. We're depreciating it by 9%. I'm going again forward, not 2 years, but 3 years. You've gotten the same thing, $17,708.91.85. Okay? So we're going to use this formula going forward when we're doing multiple years in a row. Okay? So now it's just, can you read the problem and plug it into the right formula? Okay, so a town has a population of 12,000 and grows at 3.5% every year. What will be the population after 7 years? Okay, to the nearest whole number. Okay, so my starting populations, go through and label these things really quick. This is going to be my principal. That's what we're starting with. My rate, and we're going to write this as 0.035. We're not going to use 3.5%. We're going to use 0.035. And then my time in years, typically our t is going to be in years. So if you give it in months, you might have to do some conversions. We're going to use 7 for t. So I'm just going to go ahead and write out the formula. I'm trying to write f of t equals, we have 12,000, 1, 2, 3. We have 1 plus, because we're growing, 0.035 to the t. Okay, so if I want to find after 7 years, all we're just going to do is plug in that 7 into my function. And we get 1 plus 0.035 raised to the 7th power. Just going to go to our calculator. We have 12,000. 1 plus 0.035, all raised to the 7th power. Okay, so that would be roughly 15,267.3511. I'm just going to go 4 decimal places because we're rounding the nearest whole number. Okay, so the nearest whole number, this is where we're rounding to. The 3 tells me, do we round up or leave it alone? Right, we're going to leave it alone because 3 is not bigger than 5. So our final answer ends up being, we have 15,267 people in our town after 7 years. Pretty easy, right? Okay, so example 4, an element with a mass of 310 grams decays. Remember, decays just means we're going down at 5.7% per minute. How much of the element is remaining after 9 minutes? Okay, so I know I said t is typically used in years. You can also use it for minutes as long as it's the same unit. Okay, so if it's asking, if you're telling, if it says like per minute, but then asks you how much of the element would you have after an hour, you'd have to convert it. Okay, so we're still going to use t, like we're just going to use it for minutes. So our principal is 310. Our rate, we write 5.7% as a decimal, so it'd be 0.057. And then our time is going to be 9. Okay, so we're going to do f of 9 equals 310, 1 minus, we're decaying, remember we're going down, so we have to subtract 0.057, and we're going to all raise that to the 9th power. Okay, so we have 310. 1 minus 0.057, all raised to the 9th power, because we're going after 9 minutes. So without rounding, I'm just going to write my answer down. We have 182.796, and we'll go one more place. You can just write ... to continue to tell me that it's That's everything, not everything. We want to round to the nearest tenth, right? So again, this is where we're starting. This is the number that tells us if we round up or leave it alone. So I'm going to round up that 9 to the next number. Well, that 9 turns into a 10, so I'm going to bump it over to an 8. So you're going to get approximately 182.80 grams. All right, and that's the notes for lesson 5.